Humans of the cardboard, we have apparently a bunch of free agent cards revealed for Duelist Nexus this evening. Very hype. Free agent cards tend to be more generic cards that can kind of apply to a bunch of different decks. We'll see how these turn out. We also got a new removal spell card revealed this morning, so I'll talk about that after we go through these new ones. And let's get into it. We're halfway through Dune. I've not been in love with the set so far in terms of how much good stuff there is in here, but that doesn't mean they can't finish strong. So let's keep moving. All right, starting off here, we have War King Behemoth. Oh, that's the other thing. These free agent cards seem to be based off of like classic Yu-Gi-Oh monsters. Like I think we have a new Gaia form, right? This is the classic. What is? I can't remember his name. Beast? Is it Beast King Behemoth? Something like that. We have War King Behemoth. This is an Earth Beast effect monster. It's a level 10, 2,700 attack, 1,500 defense. You can normal summon or set this card with only one tribute. Okay, fine. Second effect, first effect, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can target a beast, beast warrior, or winged beast monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand, and if you do, this card loses 700 attack and defense. Okay, so recurs you a beast, and presumably if you're tributing something to get this guy on the field, it's probably a tri-beast type monster, which means, you're going to guarantee to have something to add back here. That's cool. Nothing too crazy, but that's nice. That's a nice little effect. There. Second effect, this card, this normal summoner set card is unaffected by the activate effects from special summoned monsters. That's pretty cool because he does get kind of beefy here, you'll see, with the third effect. But, special summoned monsters, for a lot of decks, the only actual monster effects that would even mess with War King Behemoth would be monsters special summoned from the extra deck or main deck as well, which means that's actually a decent protection for sure. And the third effect, once per turn during your end phase, you can make this card gain 700. So it gets that 700 back from what you paid on the first effect. So making him 27, or if you didn't even use that first effect to lose 700, he could be 34 and unaffected by, activated special summon monster effects. Not terrible. I mean, it's too cheeky. It's too close to the old one. It needed to be power crept a lot to be really good. And unfortunately, I don't feel like that quite does it here. But still a cool card. The artwork looks awesome. I love the art on this. Yeah. Moving on, we have Magnum the Reliever, a new generic fusion monster. This is a light fiend fusion effect monster. It's level 8, 2,800 attack, 2,000 defense. It requires one monster special summoned from the extra deck plus one monster in the hand. So kind of very, very generic. Any extra deck monster plus a monster in the hand. But of course, because it needs a monster in the hand, it does lock this card from being a super poly target, which I guess is probably a good thing. If we get too generic of super poly targets, then the card may be too playable at all times. But yeah, still pretty generic. Has two hard once per turn effects. The first one reads, you can target one poly spell or fusion spell in your graveyard, place it on the bottom of the deck, then draw one card. And the second effect, when another card's effect is activated, quick effect, you can banish a poly spell or fusion spell from grave to target a card on the field and destroy it. So it has an interruption effect as well as a draw. It's not terrible. Now, the one thing that is odd is that both of these effects need to remove the fusion spell in grave to do them, which means, are we setting up both of these? Because that means you would have to use the first effect to put a fusion spell back to draw, and then you'd have to somehow get another poly or fusion spell put in grave for your opponent's turn for this card to be able to actually pop a card. So that's the one thing. But I do think overall as a generic fusion monster, it's going to be easy enough to make. It's either an interruption or a draw. It's a big body. It's not a terrible generic fusion, for sure. This could actually come up down the line. I'll keep an eye on this one. Next, we move to Gaia Blaze, the Force of Blazing Sun. It's a fire, pyro, synchro effect monster. It's level 7, 2621 for the stats. So this is based off of Gaia. It's a cool fire version of Gaia. It's completely generic, tuner and any non-tuner. When this attacking card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can activate this effect. This card can make a second attack in a row. Fine. It can attack directly, I guess, on the second attack, which is nice, but whatever. It's battle phase oriented. Second effect, at the end of the battle phase, you can target fire monsters in your grave up to the number of monsters this card destroyed by battle this turn. Add them to your hand. Again, just fine. I don't love this card. I don't think it's a terrible, terrible card, but its effects are very, like, pretty much entirely centered around the battle phase, which I don't love. Whereas you could probably just be trying to kill your opponent, but its end of battle phase effect is predicated on, like, getting a bunch of resources back. So, I don't know. Unless there's a world where, like, for some reason, maybe we get Volcanics in this Legendary Duelist upcoming set, and they become, like, a Synchro archetype that... or, like, something where, like, just having, like, good Pyro Fire monsters, like, because some of the cards, like, plus you like crazy if you make a Pyro monster... Like, maybe if that's a route, then maybe we're talking about something here. But, like, it's generically not strong enough. If you're going to have a card that's entirely based around the battle phase, it's got to be as good as Zeus, essentially, for, like, modern-day standards, to be honest. All right, moving on. We have a new Exceed monster, rank 8. This is Fellomathic. The first time I saw this name, I thought this was, like, a math mech type monster, but it's not. Fellomathic Kratus. He has really cool artwork here. He's a Dark Spellcaster Exceed, rank 8. It's completely generic, 2 level 8, 3,000 attack, 900 defense, so big 3k body. Second effect's a hard once per turn. Each time your opponent activates a trap card or effect, or a monster effect, place 1 spell counter on this card when it resolves. I got worried there for a second because I saw Trapper effect, and I was like, oh my god, this card only gets counters by your opponent's traps. But they put monster after it, so we're clean. That's going to be live pretty often. Second effect, you can remove 3 spell counters from this card to apply one of these effects. Either add a spell or a spellcaster effect monster. Oh, add any spell or spellcaster effect monster from your deck to your hand. Okay. Special summon a spellcaster monster from your hand or deck. Third effect, if this card to be destroyed, detach a material from it instead. Oh. So, this card, to me, seems like borderline unplayable because, like, how are you ever, like, resolving this? You would have to, like, make this turn 1, have it survive a turn cycle in which your opponent's trying to play, so you're able to just, like, get a couple counters on this card as your opponent tries to play. And then on your next turn, because it's a slow effect to the second effect, remove 3 spell counters to add a spellcaster, or summon a spellcaster straight from the deck. That's so bad that, like, this card will almost never be able to work, because it has to remove 3 spell counters from itself too. So I was also going to say, like, oh, if this card generically, if you could just make this in a deck that puts spell counters on the field, you know, Endymion or whatever, and then if you just could put 3 spell counters anywhere on the field and remove them, but you have to put them on this card, which becomes much more challenging. So I'm pretty sure this card's going to be unplayable. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on the spell counter thing. Are there really easy, accessible cards that are going to be worth playing that can, or you can make him, then put 3 spell counters on him to make him live on that first turn? Then maybe we're looking at something, because then we're searching any spellcaster, whatever. But obviously, I'll believe it when I see it. But it seems pretty bad to me. New spell, Egomorph. I remember when I was a kid and I was first getting into Yu-Gi-Oh! I was really enjoying What was that? Ego Boost, I think, was like the battle phase, the battle trap there. But yeah. Here we go. Quick play spell. You can only activate 1 card with this card's name per turn. At the start of the damage step, if your monster battles an opponent's monster, activate 1 of these effects. Change the attacking monster to defense position. Return the attack target to the hand. Or destroy both battling monsters. Yeah, this card's fine. I like that it gives you a couple different options. This is more of a card that would probably be more valuable in, like, a draft setting. If you were to, like, just draft this set and then try to duel with anything you get from pools, this could be a generic enough playable card for sure because of the different options it gives you. But outside of that, I really don't see this card being too good, to be honest. Just, again, too battle phase oriented. And lastly for this part before we get to the last card there, Opposing Mirrors of the Underworld. This is a normal trap card. You can only activate 1 per turn. When you take damage from an opponent's attack or card effect, apply this effect based on the type of damage. If you take battle damage, special summon a monster from your graveyard with attack equal to or lower than the damage you took, and if you do, end the battle phase after the damage step. Okay. If you take effect damage, inflict twice that much damage to your opponent. This card's terrible. It's cheeky. It's just anime baloney, pretty much, is what this is. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. So from these free agents, to be honest, it's just the Fusion for me. I think the Fusion could have some potential, but we also have Garura as a generic card that draws you 1. But Guru's not an interruption, so this card does give you extra utility there, which is cool. But yeah, he definitely is like the only one that gives me like legit potential vibes. Then from there, we move on to this. This is a new card called Corrupted Gem of Rebellion, Snake Eye. I almost wanted this to be an Evil Eye card. It looks like it fits the archetype perfectly, but it is not. You can only activate one card of this card's name per turn. This is a generic spell, by the way, just a normal spell. Target one face-up monster on the field as cost. Place it face up in its owner's spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. Very interesting. It's an in-between card for me. There maybe could be a format where this card just so perfectly is such a good counter to your opponent's strategy that it could work. I would say the one thing that this card has over a lot of different removal spells that are arguably better, more powerful, give you better versions of removal, is that this card technically isn't removal, which is almost good because if you have a card that's going to send, Raigeki, right, has the ceiling of being able to wipe a whole board, where this card doesn't. This card only hits one monster. But it does give you the ability to keep your opponent's monster from being accessible. If it is a one-of type monster, if you don't send it to grave, they can't get it back from grave. If you don't put it back in the deck, they can't access it that way. And sticking it into the spell and trap zone could actually just stick it, and they just can't even move it. A lot of decks probably wouldn't have the utility to even get that card from that point into the graveyard to access later on. So in that regard, it's nice, but it targets. They still keep the card on field, so that's, that could potentially be, a backfire. I mean, just thinking about Forbidden Droplets, for example. That's just another free card that's going to be right there that, one, they're going to be able to get engraved that way anyway, and it's just free payment for the Forbidden Droplet if they want it. So, there's going to be downsides to it. We're seeing right now the Abyss guy, I forget what that one spell is called, where you list an attribute and a type, and your opponent has to send it. So that's really good because it doesn't affect the monster. So even Towers monsters can be sent with that. But it pays life points and all this stuff. But that card right now in the OCG, because of Pirelli having a Towers, is being played. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a very specific meta deck or a couple decks where this card was decent against, specifically good against, where Raigeki's not good. Some of the other power spells aren't good against, but this one could be. So we'll see. And then there's also the added utility of stuff like Crystal Beast. This helps you put a Crystal Beast in your spell and trap zone. Valance does that stuff. I wonder if you put a Pendulum on field into the spell and trap zone as a continuous spell, if you put it in the right pendulum zone, does it now become a pendulum spell and be able to activate its effects? I wonder if that's something we could potentially do as well. But that's just more cheeky stuff. I'm not sure that's actually the best use for this card. But yeah, just okay. Overall, for free agents, I'm kind of disappointed here, especially since at the beginning of the video I said the set has not been off to a super hot start, in my opinion. I was honestly expecting a way better start or just overall from the set. And listen, they've still got a ton of room to make it happen in the last 30 to 40 slots of the set. But so far, I'm not overwhelmed at all. So we'll have to see where they end up here. I think this card is okay. It'll go in as a card that I keep an eye on. And I think this card too. But other than that, everything else here was more cheeky and nostalgic and cool, more so than actually relevant in any kind of competitive way. So that's where I'm at. Those are just my thoughts, though. Let me know your thoughts down in the description below. If there's anything in the comments below, if there's anything I missed specifically with interactions with any of these cards that may make them more viable than I'm giving them credit for, please let me know down below. But I'm out of here for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I will see you in the next one. Peace.